Coping. He opened with "fuck off," but at this point I know enough not to react. He has a light beard and is over 6 feet tall when he stands. At 18, he has the physicality of a slouching man folded into a small desk. I know that if I pretend I didn't hear it, he can pretend he didn't say it. This leaves a small space for us to start over. I have learned so much. The moment is imbued with potential violence. I have learned how to navigate this. He is hurting, but wields it like a weapon, as if throwing pain from his body would somehow leave him with less. He comes by this technique honestly, having learned it at home. I am a frequent visitor to this classroom. The space has grown surprisingly sacred. It takes some getting used to this particular brand of consecration. There is so much anger and frustration, sadness and apathy. These young people face such an uncertain future and come from so much struggle. But this room is not as much a container for beautiful and broken humanity as it is a quiet harbor in the chaos, a soft place to heal. She was there that rainy day last year when he climbed out the window, running for the edge of the roof. When I followed him out on that ledge, she stayed behind with the others, called in the lockdown. My memories of that day are so many snapshots, more like impressionist paintings, really. It's strange to think of her collection, knowing that it features my pink blouse against gray, his thin black line quivering on the edge between architecture and sky. I'm sure it was quite striking. It's a year later, and she's shoring up the windowsills with the plastic succulents and dollar store prints, trying to keep the crumbling at bay, reframing the old view of the roof. Every day she brings in another bag of trinkets to form a wall along the interior window ledge. We all have different ways of coping in the face of such profound violence. I've planted a sleeping garden of weeds in my chest. When I renamed them wildflowers, they began to sprout. These soft green forms remind me to lead with compassion, remind me of the beauty that erupts from rocky soil. She's been pasting a vinyl garden on the institutional concrete walls, as if through adornment she can make this room a reflection of our hopeful hearts, as if she can keep us here, keep us safe, together. Maybe she can. He opens with, "Fuck off." I follow with, "How are you?" Because he could. As soon as they were in his hands, he flushed with an automatic shame response. He said it was the warmth that did it. 2 eggs, 1 for each palm, heavier than they had any right to be. He took them without thinking, just because he could. He found the nest within arm's reach, and everyone knows gulls are a pest. After all, they shit everywhere, and who do you think has to clean that up? He tells me his stomach clenched at how quickly they cooled in his hands. How to dress for your breakup. What to wear when seeing your lover for what perhaps is the last time. You want to remind him that he once thought you were attractive, but you don't want to look like you're trying too hard. Remember the last time he complimented your appearance and go for a watered-down version of this. Pull your hair off your face so she could touch your cheek unfettered should she choose to reach out in the tenderness you've been missing. Or better yet, let your hair fall undone to your shoulders. It will remind her of sex. It will give you something to do with your hands. When preparing to leave the house to break up with your lover, do not spend too much time in front of the mirror. You are not narcissists romancing your reflection, but do remember to love yourself. Use eyeliner to trace tiny spells along your waterline, 1 charm, 1 curse, and a hex. Sharpen it to a fine point before composing complicated mantras along your inner thighs, repeating all the things you must remember when the conversation gets derailed. Say prayers over your pigments and gently pat them into your flesh. Whisper the story you've been telling yourself about him into your lipstick. Turn the mirror to the wall and reflect upon all the things you know to be true about him and about you. Remember the familiar weight and dimensions of the luggage he left circulating the claims carousel. How you watched him struggle to balance all that familiar baggage on a cart. Do not laugh at his clumsiness. Try not to cry either. Do not wear your recently sleepless nights like a hair-shirted martyrdom. Be sure to conceal the dark crescents of your own carry-on eyes, so they do not overshadow your convictions. Choose mascara as dark as the shadow that slipped between your caring and her defense, between her kindness and your violence. When preparing to leave the house to visit a lover you might be leaving, wear clean underwear. Ensure your body is cropped, clipped, and polished just in case. You need to viscerally remind each other how good it feels for egos to feast on pretty flesh. After all, you must be prepared for anything. Massage exotic oils onto your pulse points. Select the ones that remind him of the childhood home he wishes he had. The ones that smell like breastfed babies and something sweet in the oven for dessert. When breaking up with your lover, be sure to wear a poem over your heart. A reminder that you do love yourself and that this is why, even now, you can still love them in all their vulnerable, defensive humanity, with all their glaciers and lava flows. Beneath their pride, they have forgotten to love themselves. There are many icebergs, deep sea eruptions that are so much bigger below the surface. Remember that it is not vanity to love yourself enough to leave. Bones for flesh. Pollen collects in your pores and the small wrinkles of your skin. You are remade wizened, dusted gold, finally unfurled. Your palms ooze honey when the bear emerges from the suburban alley. As always, there is a fecundity, a wet reflex, an automatic quivering. But this time, you do not pretend otherwise. After all, he only came to see salt lick your face, his hot, blind tongue searching out the high tide line of your eyes. When he is done, you finally relax into your own spilling softness, trading tired bones for flesh. Their crystallized forms make such pretty armor over fur. Deflated toes easily burrow beneath concrete to find earth. You submit to a slow and diffuse consumption. The larvae and sylphidi tickle their way in. Polypores sprout fungi shelves where your ribs used to be. Your body has become siren to the smallest of beasts. A colony of ants is supported by your honeyed palms alone, the whole world bringing you back to the queen. Caregiving. There is a familiar voice in this silence, just as there is a kind of love inside my grief. When I am alone and still enough to visit, the void eyes up my son and asks, "What will I leave behind?" A past lover tells me that the anger was a gift from his mother. He tells me that he has only just now begun to know his father. His father's gift was the reckoning of his death. He tells me that upon his father's passing, he has revisited the suffering memories of adolescence and found them lacking, softer edged, but not without pain. There is so much regret over old anger harbored too long. I gave him my aching bones tied together with all the hair I've lost, tucked them into his cavernous hunger, and named it love. He thinks I took it back, but I do not want it back. It was a gift. While my father gave me deer blood and dark chocolate held between frozen fingers, my mother parceled out small bits of calm and hid them between slices of dark bread. I have learned so much about caring, caregiving, or how to carry another person. A friend gives me crumbs of his secret sadness dropped into conversation, a not quite accidental path through the haunted woods of his family. I want to know the shape of his burdens. There is a mystery, a flock of soft pain and a strange familiarity that hangs between us like a lingering habit. I don't know why I want to know him like this. It is instinctual and strange. But I've been learning to listen to the void when I am alone and still enough to hear it. I see the quiet seed of his suffering hanging between hunched shoulders, a slowly gestating story still growing in the darkness close to his chest. Last night while dreaming, I encountered my maternal grandmother. She was more vibrant than I ever knew her in life, more joyful. It had been a while since my last visitation. This morning I wake up grieving an old loss, grieving the version of her that I never really knew, the version that knew happiness, the one that gave me a knowing smile. I give of myself maniacally and hope to be kept. I give to those who have built careful blanket forts in my palms. I collect their soft shelters and hold them. When I am alone, and still enough to return the void's steady gaze, I answer. Each gift is a small prayer, a vow, and a resurrection. One day they will be an inheritance.